Now this here is different because now we're looking at 3 times a number is decreased by 12. The result is 5. Decreased now highlights something that is different from the previous questions that we solved. So let's look at this question closely, which says that 3 times a number, which means that we have 3 times a number. In this case we represent it as n, but it says here that it is decreased by 12. So it decreased means that the value of this is brought down with the help of this number here, which is 12. And so our expression is going to be 3 times n, which is the same thing as 3n minus 12. And this here, the result is equal to 5. And so once we have this, we can now rewrite it on our next step. 3n minus 12 equals 5. And we solve for the value for n. By balance method, we add 12 to both sides, and that means that this becomes 0. On our left side, we're going to have 3n, and on the right side, we have 17. And here, our final step is what? We divide both sides by 3, so that means 3 divided by 3 gives us 1. And on the other side, we have 17 divided by 3, and that means here our end value is equal to 17 over 3 as our answer. So now when we want to check to see whether this fraction here is true for this equation to be equal to 5, let's see whether that is the case when we see whether the left side of the equal sign is equal to the right side of the equal sign. In this case, where n is equal to 17 over 3, we have 3 times what? N value is 17 over 3 minus 12. In this case, 3 divided by 3 gives you 1, and we're left with 17. And so 17 minus 12 gives us what? 5. So therefore, left side is equal to the right side for this question right here. Next one here says that we have 6 less than twice a number is 5. Remember here that subtraction, the position that you put in numbers or items makes a huge difference. In this case here, it says that 6 is less than. So that means that because 6 is less than, that means twice a number is bigger than 6. Therefore, 2n, which is for the 2 times what a number, for the n, we'll write it over here. 2n is what? Less than. That means we're going to subtract or minus 6. And so this here is something to keep in mind. So if you want to see something like this, think of it as 6 less than a number is the same thing as negative 6. Then you have 2 times n. So in this case, the same thing as 2n. So that means 2n minus 6. And this here is, in this case, equal to sign to be 5. And so once we have this equation, we're going to rewrite it and solve for the value of n. And so here, because we are subtracting 6, the opposite will be add 6 to both sides. Therefore, this cancels out. We are left with 2. N equals to 5 plus 6, which gives you 11. Therefore, our final step here is to divide both sides by 2. So in this case, 2n divided by 2. And on the right side, we're going to have 11 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 gives you 1. And the final step here shows that our n is equal to 11 over 2. So now we have this fraction as our answer. Let's see whether this here, when we put it into this equation, on the left side, it should give us 5. And so when we do this, we notice that because we have our 2n minus 6 and our n is equal to 11 over 2, that means that will be multiplied by 2. And this here shows that 2 divided by 2 gives you 1. We're left with 11 minus 6, and this here is equal to 5. Therefore, in this case, awesome, the left side is equal to the right side. And here are the final 2 questions. Now, this question here, I'll challenge you to try it based on our previous question that we solved. And so once you pause and now play, you can now see the solution here. So in the solution here, we have this here to be rearranged differently, where the result is what? 52 is. So in this case we have our 52, and we have our is, which is the equal sign, and this here, when we rewrite it here as 52 equals, we have our 4 is less than. So in this case our 4 less than, we're going to write -4 at the end, and we're going to have our twice the number, which is 2 times a number. So in this case we're going to rewrite it here as 2n, and so keep that in mind based on which one comes first. When you have 4 subtract from 2 times a number, that is pretty much the same thing as saying 4 less than twice a number. So here, once we have these, we'll rewrite this over here. 52 is equal to 2n minus 4, and we see that the first step is to, in this case, because we have subtract 4, we're going to add 4 to both sides, and so this here shows that that gives us 0, and we have our 2n on the right side, but on the left side here we have 54 plus 4, 52 plus 4, which gives us what? 56. And so our final step is to do what? Divide both sides by 2, because our 2 is multiplied by our n. So therefore, dividing both sides by 2, we have our right side to be equal to n, and our left side to be 56 divided by 2, which gives us around 28. And so once you have this as your answer for n to be equal to 28, let's see whether the left side is equal to the right side based on the equation and the result here. So here we have our left side to be 52. I want to see whether this here is equal to 2n minus 4, and where we know that n is equal to 28, we are going to multiply our 2 by 28, and that gives us what? In this case we have 56, and then when we subtract 4, we get here 52, and so this here shows that the left side is equal to the right side. Awesome. And then the final question here is a little bit tricky, but you should be able to be fine, because here we're dealing now with fractions. It says that 1/2 of a number and 14 is 420. So right off the bat, we know that 1/2 we know is written as 1/2, and this here of, remember, is the same thing as saying times. A number in this case is represented as a variable n. So therefore this here is the same thing as 1/2 times n, which is n, in this case 1/2n, and then and remember is addition, and we're going to add this to 14, and so that here shows that it is equal to, based on the is, 420, and so this here is going to be written here as 420. So now we have this algebraic equation. We can now solve for the value of n. So rewriting this over here, we have 1/2n plus 14, and this here equals to 420. This shows first that we need to subtract both sides from 14. Subtract 14 from both sides. So therefore this here gives you what? 0, and we have our 1/2n is equal to 420 minus 14, and this here should give you around, this is 6 here, this is 0, and this here is 4. So I think that is correct. So once we have this as our result on the right side, we are going to find the value for n. In here we know that our 1/2 is multiplied by what? N. So the opposite of multiplication is division, so that means we have 1/2 divided by 1/2n, and this is equal to 406 divided by 1/2. So remember here that we have to change it to multiplication sign, so that means that once I change this multiplication sign, is the same thing as keeping this fraction here and flipping this other fraction here, so it will become 2/1. And the same thing applies here. I'm going to change this to a multiplication sign, and that means my 1/2 becomes my 2/1. So that means now that my 2 cancels out the 2, I'm left with n as the left side, and the right side here is 406 times 2, which gives us around 2, and we have our 1, and we have our 8. So this here answer for n is what? In this case, to be n is equal to 812. So what I challenge you to do is to, for the final step, I know I don't have space here to check, but what I want you to do is to check whether the left side of this equation is equal to the right side of this equation if n is equal to 812. So I hope you found this really informative. Please see you on the next one. Stay smart as always and believe in yourself.